Thank you so much for joining me this afternoon for this webinar on Boschendal. As always, the webinar is going to be recorded and we will be putting it on our YouTube channel, and then we will send out a recording as well as everything you need to sell Boschendal in a follow-up in the next couple of days. If you've got any questions, please do put them in the Q&A and we can get to those at the end. And we will go through the kind of accommodation offering at Boschendal and then a few of the activities as well. So if you've got any questions throughout, let me know. So Boschendal is in a brilliant location. So it's in the Cape Winelands and it's sort of almost equidistant between Franschhoek, Stellenbosch and Paarl. So it's in a really great central location, especially for people who are kind of wanting to explore a little bit more of the winelands as well while they're staying. It's only a 40 minutes from the international airport, and it's about an hour from Cape Town City. So we have had people who kind of base themselves at Boschendal and might maybe do a day trip into Cape Town and then come back out to the kind of freedom and the space of the winelands for where they are staying. We are located on a working farm, so Boschendal really is the epitome of a working farm. There is cattle, there is fruit trees, and obviously grapes, wine grapes. And you see the sort of hive of activity the whole time you're there, whether it's harvesting the fruit at particular times of the year. You see tractors going past, sort of piled up with grapes, and you see evidence of the working farm the whole time you're here. So it really is a kind of hive of activity at all times, and they really do try to integrate this into everything that an international or a domestic guest can enjoy here. So during the plum harvesting season, they have a whole plum festival for the month and do kind of lots of different activities surrounding that. During the kind of citrus harvesting, they do all activities surrounding that. So they do try to involve it as much as possible, and you sort of see it woven through everything that they do. So this is a really sort of handy map of Boschendal. So it gives you kind of a perspective of how the farm is laid out and where kind of international guests will be staying. So you've got down at the bottom half of this map, we've got the sort of what we would call the main side of the farm. So down on the bottom right here, you've got the main manor house, and we've got the restaurants and the shops. And then we do have the Bath Garden Suites down here, and also a new cottage on the inventory, Clarence Cottage, which isn't yet showcased on this map, but it's just, if you can see the little pool behind the Bath Garden Suites, it's just there. You then on the left side have got the Road Homestead area, and when guests come in the main entrance, generally they will head off down to the right hand side of this map. They will turn left, and that's where the kind of accommodation reception is, and that's where they'll be kind of fielded off to. Meanwhile, sort of day guests coming in for just wine tastings or sort of big groups, they will all be kind of fielded off to the Road Homestead area, and this is where the cellar door is and where big wine tastings and things take place. So we don't have kind of hordes of busloads of guests coming, day guests coming through and making it feel really busy here. So while we do get a lot of day visitors, it never feels super busy around the kind of around the accommodation, around the cottages. We then have got the road that kind of runs all the way through. And this is actually really handy because it sort of splits off the main side of the farm from the accommodation options. So over here, we've got the orchard cottages, the retreat, and then we've got our exclusive use cottages as well. And the farm really is enormous. It is 1,800 hectares. So it is an enormous space. There is so much space. I mean, between the orchard cottages and the retreat, they are not very close together at all. You kind of feel like you're in your own little sort of village of cottages. And what's really nice about that is, again, you don't get lots of day guests, lots of people just visiting like the restaurants and the shops over sort of near the cottages or around the cottages. So it feels really private still. So if you've got any questions about that, do let me know. Sometimes it can be a little confusing. In terms of getting around the farm, we do have shuttles, so you can just pick up the phone, someone will come and collect you. So there is no need to have a vehicle or feel like you have to drive back from dinner and not enjoy all the wine that you can. So we'll go into a little bit about the different accommodation options. Now, Boschendal has done loads over the last few years in terms of updating the accommodation and renovating. So while many people think they know the accommodation on the farm, they actually might not know as much as they think. Because it has been updated sort of quite extensively over the last few years, and particularly throughout COVID in the last 12 months as well. So we'll start with the retreat cottages. These are the most recently renovated. The retreat was originally built for kind of conferencing groups and sort of big mice groups, but works really nicely for families, and also works really nicely for you know, people traveling with a wedding party or something like that. You know, lots of people traveling together who want sort of one space, but it does work really nicely for families. So there's 18 of these cottages. There is a kind of whole, it's got its own private main area. It's got a little restaurant there where guests of the retreat can have breakfast. It's got a natural swimming pool, and then it does also have those conferencing facilities. So things like a cinema. It's got a big sports field there as well. So the cottages recently renovated. They are 2-bedroom and 2-bathroom. They've had a bathroom added, and they've also had a decked area added at the front and at the back, really kind of making the cottage feel much bigger and making the outdoor space feel much more functional. They've had this really cool kind of a bit more modern style of interiors, and it just feels like the perfect kind of hangout for a small family. So one of my colleagues has stayed here with her 3 kids. 3 boys were in one room, mum and dad are in the other room, and it works really nicely because they have their own bathrooms now. It's then got this whole kind of communal space to it as well. So the restaurant, which serves breakfast, and we are introducing lunch here as well, and that is just for retreat guests. It's got this lovely boma area and also a natural swimming pool, and then a lovely big kind of lounge area as well. And it has got its own reception at the retreat cottages. So that means that guests can, they can kind of, if they've got any questions or whatever, they can be answered at the cottages. So moving on to the orchard cottages. So these are a really popular one for families. I particularly think it's great for families with younger children. So at the retreat, all the cottages are kind of set amongst kind of quite mature gardens through lots of winding paths. So for me, the thought of small children running around there makes me feel a bit nervous. You lose them quite easily. Whereas in the orchard cottages, it's out on these beautiful big lawns. So you can sit on the veranda, or the stoep, as the South Africans call it, and just watch the kids play on the grass, and it just feels really this beautiful big open space. And there really is something for everyone at the orchard cottages. So everything from a 1-bedroom, one bathroom, we've got 2-bedroom, 1 bathroom, right up to 4-bedroom and 4-bathroom. And these beautiful cottages, again, have been refurbished in the last few years. Really lovely, kind of very sort of simple in design, very kind of modern, but still that kind of farmhousey kind of style. And there really is, you know, something for every kind of size group. And they're a great one to take if you've got a couple of families traveling together, or maybe a family and then grandparents can go in a 1-bedroom, and mum, dad and kids can go in one of the bigger cottages. So it works really nicely for that. It's got a private pool here, so that's shared between the orchard cottages, and again a boma area as well. And it's kind of, the elevated view here is absolutely stunning. The views, as you can see from that photo on the left, is really beautiful. So moving on to the back garden suites. These are, if you remember from the map, are the suites that are at the on the main side of the farm. So work really great for couples, particularly who maybe haven't self-driven, or maybe you just want to be kind of close to things like the restaurants and the kind of and the sort of main hub of the farm. So they are split into large and small. They're all 1-bedroom. And the small garden suites are really just perfect for a couple. And then the large garden suites, I would say, would be great for a couple potentially traveling with a small child or a baby. So this day bed in the large VAF garden suite can be made into a single bed. So great for one small child. And they have this really beautiful kind of, you can see the heritage style coming through in these cottages particularly. They've got a lovely outdoor space and a pool, as you can see on that map. There's the little pool there. And then we have got Clarence Cottage. So Behind the garden suites, where the pool is, you can walk through a small area of woodland and you reach Clarence Cottage, which also has use of the VAF garden suites pool as well. This is a brilliant option for families on the main side of the farm. So it's a 2-bedroom and 2-bathroom cottage. It is on request only, so you won't see it on the online inventory, and it's one that you have to kind of request through the res team. And this is, again, it got that sort of beautiful, really cool interiors, still kind of touches of that sort of heritage style, but much more modern, a bit more similar, I would say, to the sort of retreat cottages as well. So now that we're in our kind of exclusive use cottages, we'll move on to cottage 1685. So this is back on the other side of the farm, and it's set a bit further up a really beautiful long road. And this cottage was built for Cecil John Rhodes. So it really carries that heritage. It's actually a National Heritage Site here. It's a beautiful, big kind of exclusive use cottage. You've got 3 bedrooms in the main house, and then it also has an annex. So brilliant for multi-generational groups, because that annex is sort of separate, but within the same kind of garden space. It is privately hosted as well, I should say, and breakfast is served at the cottage. It is also pet friendly. So for those domestic bookings, guests can bring their dog. So it really does, they've really tried to keep the sort of heritage style here, because it is sort of it is the cottage with the most history, really. And so it has had a few updates in the last year, but it's still got that really lovely heritage look. I just love those beautiful wood floorboards. And then it's got a lovely big garden area with a private pool, and just set across these lawns with incredible views of Simmonsburg Mountains behind. We're now into sort of heading further towards the mountains, up to our mountain villa. So this is probably the most luxurious property on Boschendal. It's a 6-bedroom villa. It's got the most amazing views over the whole of the Friendship Valley, and has got the backdrop of the mountains behind as well. It's got this lovely big heated pool. It's also got a dam right behind, a private dam where guests can go kayaking on the dam, and it's got loads of sort of big lawn area. So it would be the most incredible space for a family or a big group traveling together. It is privately hosted as well. You are a little further away up here, away from the main area. But, you know, as I said, you've got the shuttles and that can sort of take guests back and forth from the main side of the farm. It's got it's just the most amazing kind of area for dining and hosting. This outdoor space out on the top left has got a pizza oven. You've got a braai area. So all the cottages have a braai area. But this outdoor entertainment space, I just think so stunning. And it really does have the most incredible views out over the farm. In terms of inclusions for all of the accommodation, all of them include breakfast, and they all include a guided hike, which I would definitely recommend taking, and I would definitely recommend going with a guide. That the guides just know so much about the history of the farm and the history of the area, and it is really interesting, because there is so much to learn about the property itself, but also the wider area. All guests get a permit for the mountain biking and hiking trails. So the mountain biking, you rent a bike, but the permit is sort of included in the cost of staying at Boschendal. And there's also access to the treehouse playground, which I'll go into in a little bit. So in terms of dining, of course, this area is incredible for the food and the dining, and obviously the wine. And so we've got the VAF restaurant, which is kind of more fine dining restaurant. The menu changes almost daily, as often as they need to. They are completely seasonal here. So the produce is what they can get in, what they can get from the farm and the surrounding area. So that's why, it changes all the time. If they can't get a hold of carrots, they won't be serving them. So it's really just the most amazing dining experience. And of course, the wine served here, the wait staff are brilliant at kind of matching the wine with what you're going to be eating. We do wine tasting at the VAF as well. So you've got the sort of Rona Homestead where we tend to have groups, the big groups doing the wine tasting, the sort of day visitors, but we do also have wine tasting over here in the VAF, the main VAF area. We've got the deli restaurants. So this is great. It's open all week, breakfast, lunch and dinner. And it's just that really hearty, wholesome food and amazing coffee. And the cakes are delicious. Coffee and cake here in the afternoon is definitely a must. And iconic Boschendal, one that sort of everyone knows about, is the picnics. So they're set out on these lawns from Thursday, Thursday through to Sunday, and at the weekends they have live music as well, and it's just the most amazing vibe. There is nothing I would love more right now than to be sat on those lawns. And the food is, again, all food that's sort of from the local surrounding area. They sort of you get it in this one of these baskets you can see down the bottom here, all in the kind of reusable, beautiful jars and containers. And it is just, yeah, sat here with a glass of wine and one of those low back chairs is just heaven. The farm shop is a great space for, because guests are able to self-cater in all of the cottages. So I think one evening it's so lovely to come down here, get a load of produce from the farm shop and the butchery, and take it back to the cottage and eat in the cottage. So that is a really nice thing to do. And again, amazing coffee, but it's all produce from on the farm or from local surrounding farms. If they don't grow it on Boschendal, they probably grow it at a surrounding farm. So it's all produce from really, really nearby at the very least. In terms of activities, there is loads to do at Boschendal. So when I stayed here this time last year, we had 3 nights and I could have easily stayed 5 nights. There is so much to do. You've got the mountain biking trails, so they're really well signposted. You can take a bike out and do as easy or as hard as you like. We've then got you can go hiking. We've got horse riding, which I think is just the most lovely way to see the farm. You can get out a bit further and see a lot more. And the guide on the horse riding, it's a really nice way to kind of understand a bit more about the ways that they farm on Boschendal. I thought it was a really nice way to kind of see the farm and understand more about the farming techniques here. On a Friday night, they have their Friday night markets throughout the summer. So that was a brilliant kind of thing that started during COVID, and they have continued it. And it's such a buzz. I mean, even kind of all the staff at Boschendal, so the team that we deal with, they stay on a Friday evening for the Friday night markets. And it is just meant to be the most amazing buzz here. So it's kind of food and drink and selling, and sort of local producers from around the area selling what either they make, local artisans, and food and wine, and just, yeah, definitely an amazing Friday night experience. Included in all of the stays at Boschendal as well is a farm tour. So especially around their kind of the gardens that produce all of the kind of produce for the restaurants. Really nice to have a tour around there and to just understand more about Boschendal and what they do. We also have the cinema. So this is another summer activity. It was a drive-in cinema during COVID, and they've introduced kind of beanbags and chairs. So obviously you don't have to kind of be so far away from each other in our cars anymore. So it was something that they started for the local market and has just taken off and has remained. So that's a really fun activity, and international guests are welcome to get involved, whether they have a car or not. We've got sort of bean bags and the low back chairs here that guests can come down and watch a movie. The main VAF, the Manor House, has been taken over by the Norval Gallery. So it's a beautiful art gallery in here now, really, really cool. And we do have people come to visit who aren't staying on the farm as well. So definitely one to head in and have a look at. We also got the homewares shop, which the small marketing team really did some damage in when we stayed last year. Beautiful homewares, things you can take home and just love forever. And they do have shipping at the moment domestically. We're kind of hoping they get international shipping at some point, although that could be dangerous. And then, of course, wine tastings. It's such a big part of Boschendal, and I definitely think a wine tasting is a must while staying here. So I mentioned the treehouse earlier. So the treehouse playground is included in any stage. Kids can come and play here. There is also the treehouse outdoor farm experience. So that is for kids from aged 5 to 14. And it's a brilliant way to keep the kids entertained while mum and dad maybe go off and have a wine tasting or go for lunch at the VAF restaurant, or just do something that's not doesn't involve the kids. And you can guarantee the children here will have the best time. I know Anita's kids, when they came here, didn't want to leave. They won't want to be anywhere else. It's a brilliant experience. They kind of arrive, they get their little locker. It's so cute. Everything's sort of mini. So all the doorways are a little bit lower. And they get their locker, they get their boots and their hat, and they head out onto the farm, and they're taught about kind of the conservation of the land. They're taught about the kind of farming techniques. They go foraging for berries and collect the eggs from the chickens, and then they make their lunch. So usually they make pizzas, or they might make an omelette with the eggs they've collected, and it's just a really fun outdoors, not a screen in sight, just a really great outdoorsy experience for the kids. So that's for a morning or an afternoon, and it's a great one to book in for families. Even just families staying in the area can book in as well here. So a great one for, you know, if you've got guests staying in Franschhoek and mum and dad want to have an afternoon, then the Boschendal Treehouse is definitely one for them. It's just, yeah, and they've also got their pump track here for kids on their bikes. Obviously can also be used by adults as well if they want. So that is a really sort of, hopefully, a quick overview, but comprehensive of Boschendal. If you've got any questions, please pop them in the Q&A. I think it's at the bottom of your screen. These are our contacts. We deal with Karen and Blanche at Boschendal in the sales. So you can contact them or us for any questions if you think of them after the fact. As I said, the webinar has been recorded. We will be putting it on our YouTube channel. We'll send you the link to that, so you can share it with your teams or sort of go back and use it whenever you need. Blanche is actually going to be at ITB next week. So if you are going to ITB or any of your team is going to ITB, do let us know. We'd obviously love to see you in person. We're really excited to go back to Berlin after so many years off that trade show. So we're really excited. So yeah, do let us know if you or any of the team or any of your colleagues are heading over, and we'd love to meet with them. But have a great rest of your afternoon, and we'll be in touch very soon.